Hello everyone, this is the ear anatomy review, and if you look at page 66, you will see the required ear anatomy that you were required to know for the first practical. So we'll go over the different parts. First off, you've got the three different regions. You've got the outer ear, that starts at the structure known as the pinna or the auricle, which is this funnel-shaped structure, and comes in through the external auditory canal or meatus and ends at this structure here known as the tympanic membrane, which a lot of people know as the eardrum. Then you have the middle ear, which is going to contain the ossicles as well as the auditory tube. And then you have the inner ear structures that we can take off this part of the bone. And we can see the inner ear structures start right here. And it has these loops, the structure here, and this snail shell structure, and this nerve. And we'll go through all these different parts one by one. So again, starting with the outer ear, you can see again, this funnel-shaped structure is called the auricle or the pinna, and it funnels the sound waves into what's called the external auditory canal, or you could say external auditory meatus. Do not say tube here. The tube is a different structure, so if you say tube, understand that that will be marked wrong on the practical. So the external auditory canal or meatus will end at this structure here, known as the tympanic membrane. So if we go ahead and we take this off, we can see a little bit better what that tympanic membrane looks like. So you can see it's convex and concave depending upon which side you're looking at. So on the medial side, you're going to see that you have three different ossicles. Now the three ossicles, you start with the first one that's actually attached to the membrane here. So always remember M to M. So you've got the malleus is attached to the membrane. So the malleus is all of this. And then attached to the malleus is the next structure that kind of looks like this elephant trunk here, called the incus. So all of this is the incus. Now the third ossicle is actually attached to the inner ear structures. And it's this right here, kind of looks like a bell or a stirrup. It's called the stapes. So remembering the sequence of the ossicles, it looks like this, is MIS, malleus, incus, stapes. Malleus, incus, stapes. Now if we look at the base of the stapes here, you're going to see that kind of has like an oval shape to it. And that oval shape to the stapes is because it sits inside of a membrane called the oval window. Now in lecture you learn about how the energy is transferred from the ossicles into the inner ear structure known as the cochlea. Now the cochlea is this snail shell, this whole thing. That's the cochlea. So the energy is transferred into the cochlea via the stapes. And then the hair cells inside of the cochlea are the mechanoreceptors that will end up generating the action potentials for hearing. Now, because there is a fluid inside of this structure, a wave pattern is generated. So think of it like watching a person on a raft in the water. Every time they move, they generate a wave pattern. So each sound that you hear generates a different type of wave pattern. So that energy has to be released somewhere. And where it's released is right here in the structure known as the round window. So it's like the snail's belly button. That's it right there. Now, in addition to the structures that are responsible for hearing, you also have the structures that are responsible for equilibrium. You have these 3 loops. These are your semicircular canals. So they're responsible for rotational equilibrium. And then you have the structure known as the vestibule, which is responsible for linear equilibrium. Now, on the back of the snail structure, you see this nerve here. This is the vestibular cochlear nerve. This right here. Now, what happens is this cranial nerve, the vestibular cochlear nerve, actually branches into 2 separate nerves. You have the cochlear nerve and the vestibular nerve. But you don't need to know the 2 separated nerves by themselves for the practical. You just need to know the intact one, which is the vestibular cochlear nerve, which is what you see down here. Now, the last structure, that is the auditory tube, which you see here. The auditory tube is also referred to as the pharyngotympanic tube. You may also heard of it as the eustachian tube. What it does is it runs from the middle ear, also known as the tympanic cavity, all the way into the throat and opens up just behind your nasal cavity. So what it does is it helps to equalize the pressure inside of the cavity here. So whenever you pop your ears, what you're doing is you are changing the air pressure inside of that auditory tube, so it takes the pressure off of the tympanic membrane. So those are the structures you're required to identify correctly on the practical, but also spell correctly. If you have any questions, please contact your instructor.